Welcome to What's Happening Now on KBLKradio.com. And thank you to all our tuners that are listening right now. Thank you for tuning in. This is your host, Bishop Bowser, and my guests for this morning are DeAndre Cooper and Eric Black. And the topic is Life in the Fast Lane, full of excitement and risk takers. And we'll get to them a little later. But we have a few things that we do want to talk about here on what's happening now. As you know, there's been a lot of shootings in San Diego, in the county, but in the city also, and unnecessary stuff, that's happening and going on. And the folks that we would like to reach ain't listening. And so we need the community together as a whole to get out there and talk to these young guys that are out there doing these shootings and shooting and hurting, injuring, and killing people. And so we need you to make something happen right here, right now. And because we want to stop all of this. So it's up to you. It makes ourselves a committee of one. Some of these youngsters are living in your house. Some of these youngsters are hanging out in front of your apartment or in your complex or live next door or one of your family members and so on. And we got to stop this. We can't wait till one of your loved ones gets shot or one of your loved ones get killed. Then people want to speak out and want to say something about it. But what were you saying back when they were out there committing all that violence and doing all the harm and so on? So we got to do it on both ends. We got to make it happen on both ends. We just can't be sitting around, waiting for something bad to happen and then we want to speak out about it. But we got to speak out about it all the time. You know what I mean? You got to talk to your loved ones and make sure your loved ones are not out there doing anything. If they are, hold them accountable, get on them, talk to them, because a lot of times what I find working in the streets and in the community, folks that are affected by violence, they only want to speak out when one of their loved ones gets shot or killed. But when your loved one is out there doing the shooting and killing, you need to talk to them then too, so we can prevent a lot of this stuff. We need to work. We need this to work on both ends, not just on the end of saying stop in the sense of speaking out to other people, but we also need it from the perspective of you preventing the people that when nobody in your family or no one that has been affected. We need you then and there to do something. All right. So we and we're gonna get into this a little bit later on. As we bring on DeAndre and Eric, but right now I want to talk about another issue very quickly before we move on, and that is there was a shooting the other day. I believe it was Wednesday night where a police officer shot and killed a young man. And this young man was, I come to find out, I met a lot of his friends last night. I was at an event, and it's just a coincidence that they happened to be there and tied into one of the members that go to my church, and it was one of his friends. And so, I got able to get a little bit more insight on not so much the shooting, but the young man who got shot and things like that. And so, right now, I don't want to just jump out there and start being critical of things, but I think if there was 40 shots that was shot, that was an overkill. And I think and we got to speak up for each other. People of color, we got to speak up for each other. And so like they were saying yesterday, if that was a black person that got shot, the black community would have been out there making a whole bunch of noise. And they were trying to let the Asian community also know that, hey, get on out there and speak up and cry out against these kind of things. And because I was just wondering, what was going on, who the individual was. We know he was a person. Sometimes we just put on he was probably at a drug place, or he was running and he was doing this and doing that. We don't know until you see the tapes. People will say anything. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but I'm just telling you, we have to see the facts before we make any conclusion. And whatever a person is doing, if they didn't have no gun and they really weren't trying to kill anybody, they don't deserve to be shot and killed. So, we got to look at that. So we most definitely going to continue to be on this, and there's going to be some type of town hall that the district attorney is having on Tuesday, and so we're going to be there at 6:30 at Cherokee Point Elementary School, and I believe some of the young man that got killed, some of his friends are going to be there also, and so on. And right now, people just want to know what happened, and was it really cause for it to kill this young man? So, we just have questions right now, not accusing anybody, but we just have some questions right now. Okay? So, today, I have with me today Mr. DeAndre Cooper and Eric Black. And before I get into talking with them, I just want to, there's something I picked up from VOA News, and it was very, interesting when we talk about life in the fast lane, because we know that we got a lot of youngsters out there and folks that's my age still trying to live in the fast lane. Different ways. There's just kind of ways to live in the fast lane, live that life in the fast lane. But, you got to slow down somewhere along life or it's going to catch up with you. So, but I had some interesting facts here or some interesting points here in regards to life in the fast lane. So life in the fast lane is an expression that comes from the country's large systems of highways. And I know a lot of those fast drivers, I know we're going to get into this a little bit. I know Mr. Cooper here, he's a little speedster in the cars and so on. So he understands that concept. So the roads are marked with painted lines to keep vehicles safely apart. These lines divide each road into separate lanes. Most highways in the U.S. are wide enough for 3 or 4 cars to travel side by side. Many areas require that slow drivers drive in the far right lane, fast-moving traffic operates in the middle lanes, and fastest cars drive on the left lane side, also called the fast lane. Someone living in the fast lane is like a fast-moving car. They live dangerously, at breakneck speed. It is a way of life marked by a fast pace and usually the chase of immediate satisfaction. But once they get to see, one thing you got to understand is that fleshly satisfaction, or whatever you get, that worldly satisfaction is only temporary. Whatever it is, it's only going to last for a moment, But the decisions that you make and the choices that you make, things that you do, sometimes can have a lifelong consequence. So we got to think about that immediate gratification versus thinking long term and how this is going to affect me tomorrow, how it's going to affect me 5 years from now and 20 years from now. I'm still suffering from things I did when I was a teenager. So we have to be careful of that. It catches up with us. So a person who lives in the fast lane is not happy to just live life quietly like other people. No, for someone living in the fast lane, life is one exciting experience after another. Every night is a party, metaphorically speaking. Living life in the fast lane can be a selfish way to live. Sometimes these people only care about finding their next big thrill. Such people might drink a lot of alcohol or use other drugs. They do not think twice about how their lifestyle may affect them down the road or how it may affect others. And that's one of the things, when you look at violence per se, because I just experienced this last night, being out at the hospital. A lot of times we don't think about our actions until it happened to us. And then, we're hurt, we're crying. And then on the other side, people don't see that pain. But I don't care if you're rich, I don't care if you're poor, I don't care if you live in the hood, or I don't care if you live out in La Jolla, what class you're part of, what kind of job you have, what your color of your skin is. Pain is pain. And when people hurt, they hurt. And no matter who it is or who it was, when you talk about losing a loved one or violence or so on, it affects people the same way. They have that pain, they have that hurt, they have that broken heart. And that is something that we got to consider and got to look at when we look at all this violence, because all we're doing is creating, causing a lot of hurt, hurting each other, causing pain to each other. There was a movie that I think a lot of people familiarized with, but it's The Godfather, the first one. And that's one of my favorite movies that, I used to watch all the time. And my wife used to always criticize me about years ago because she said, "You always watching that show every time, come on or whatever." But The Godfather, there was a scene when it first opened up, and there was a man in there that was seeking help from The Godfather because some guys had beat his daughter and raped his daughter, and so so the guy wanted to pay The Godfather to kill these guys. And so Godfather was like, I'm not going to do that. We're not going to kill him. And then he started talking to him about, you only here because you need me, but you don't consider me a friend. And after they went through all that, the guy bowed down, metaphorically speaking. Oh yes, Godfather, be my friend, and all that kind of stuff. But then he said, so what do you want me to do? He said, he whispered in his ear, and we didn't hear what he said, but it is suggested that, excuse the noise there, it is suggested that he had told him, said, kill him. We got some phones on in here. Said, kill him. That's what I want you to do. I want you to kill them. And the Godfather said, I can't do that. And the reason why he said he can't do that, he said, because he was saying he wanted justice. And he was saying, that's not justice. He said, because your daughter is still alive. And you want me to go kill this guy while your daughter's still alive. And a lot of times people don't think about that. They look at that, oh, you shot my homie, you shot my cousin, my brother, my son, or whatever, and your son lived. And then you're going to go out there and kill somebody and shoot somebody. That's not justice. I don't care even if you call it street justice. That's not street justice to do that. And anytime you go out there and shoot somebody, you say, oh, I'm going to just shoot them in the leg and wound them. You hit an artery, they're dead. So I know folks don't want to hear this, but I'm going to tell you, you got to let justice prevail. The best way to keep from ruining your life and ruining somebody else's life and all the people that's around you that can be affected by that is let justice take its natural course. Because God said, vengeance is mine, I shall repay. And if you leave it in the hands of God, God will make sure things are done. But you have to trust God to to see that he will take care of business for you. But if you try to take matters in your own hand, then God's going to have to deal with you. And eventually it's going to catch up with you sooner or later if you don't repent. And so you're going to have some issues there and so on. So we want to think about, that the decisions that we make. So who lives life in the fast lane? Living life in the fast lane has a high price tag. You need lots of money for this kind of life. Sometimes, us in the hood, we find other ways to live life in the fast lane. There are different categories to live life in the fast lane. But let's talk about some of these Hollywood folks. Some Hollywood movie actors and famous for their rich, fast-paced lives. Sports stars can have days filled with events, parties, and groupies. People who like famous people and follow them, they live in life in the fast lane. But you do not have to be famous to live the fast lane. Even politicians, lawyers, business tycoons live in the fast lane. For them, life is full of movement, excitement, and action. So, however, most people, even actors and sports stars, need to be well rested to perform well. If not, they will burn out quickly. But getting a full 8 hours is usually not part of life in the fast lane, because you're burning both ends of the candlestick. So many people who live in the fast lane are young. Sometimes the fast lane leads them down a rocky road or a very difficult place. Now I'm going to stop right there because we got to take a break here, and we're going to go to our break, and when we come back, we're going to come back with Mr. DeAndre Cooper and Mr. Eric Black, and have a little discussion with them about some of the things we talked about and get into some other areas of their lives. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these brief commercials.
KBLK San Diego.
All right, thank you for staying tuned with us and to what's happening now on KBLKradio.com. And I just want to finish up what I was saying and get into a discussion, some dialogue with my friend here, and about living life in the fast lane and the risk takers and so on. But many people who live life in the fast lane are young, as I said before, and they put themselves in a very difficult place. Others may hit a fork in the road. They must decide to stay in the fast lane or slow down to possibly have a longer and more meaningful life. And sometimes, people at that moment, they might listen, but then they get caught up in some stuff. And some never learn. Their life in the fast lane leads them to the end of the road, meaning they die. Rock musicians are known for living in the fast lane, who we do not have time to name all the performers who died young from their fast ways. Members of the rock band The Eagles lived in the fast lane. In fact, the group's founder, Glenn Frey and Don Henley, co-wrote a song about it, Life in the Fast Lane. is one of their biggest hits. The two men were honest about the way of life. Singing it will surely make you lose your mind. And so, having said that, I want to welcome to the show Mr. DeAndre Cooper and Mr. Eric Black. Welcome to What's Happening Now, and thank you for being on the show.
Appreciate it.
All right. Mr. Eric Black, this is your first time being on the show.
Yes, sir.
So, where did you grow up at?
Southeast San Diego.
Southeast San Diego. We born and raised here.
Yes, sir.
All right. What part of the community in Southeast San Diego?
Well, my grandmother was raised over there by Gompers,
Oh, okay.
so I attended Gompers. My mother grew up by Oak Park.
Okay. So kind of like in that area right now. All right. Let me ask you, have you ever lived life in the fast lane?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. So we want to get into some of that too, some of that life in the fast lane. Now, Mr. DeAndre Cooper, we have had you on the show a couple of times, and what's been happening since the last time you've been on the show? I mean, you're going through some cycles because when you first got out of prison, came on the show, and then after you start moving along, not a few weeks ago, whatever, you've been on the show, and here you are again, and it's good to have you. So what's been going on, bro?
Man, life is good. Just working, staying out the way.
What you mean staying out the way?
Staying out that fast lane.
That's right. They're trying to stay out of the fast lane because folks always trying to put you in it.
I'm in that slow lane.
Amen.
The one closest to the exit.
and with the exit, how do you? I mean, because you might, metaphorically, you might jump in a car with somebody, trying to get from A to B point, and they end up taking you in the fast lane. How do you get to the exit, man?
I mean, we all come with a little bit of game in us.
That's true.
Hey, I'm thirsty. Stop by the stove.
Say, I'm out of here, homie. Yeah, there's some, you can get really caught up in some stuff, when you're talking about risk takers, you're talking about, and plus, in our communities and the lifestyle that we grew up in, it's a violent one, so that thrill, that excitement, and, it's coupled with revenge and banging and drugs and all those type of things. But you can get caught up in some situations that you don't really want to be in, and, when you talk about being the risk takers and living that dangerous life. And, I remember a time when I was, I was hanging in the hood, in my community, over there in, well, the gang is West Coast Crips, but, hanging with the homies. Well, I was walking by myself at first, and, my day was a day of, just want to relax, kick back, and stay out of that dangerous lane, no, not today, man, just relax and kick back. So I see some of my homies coming, they all in the car. Hey man, where y'all going? Where you going, cuz? Get in the seat. I get in the car, man. They got guns and all kinds of stuff. Get ready to do. Go across town and put in some work. And in my mind, I'm like, man, this ain't what I want today. But I ain't no punk, so I can't say, man, pull over right here and let me out. So I had to go for the whole ride. Thank God nothing happened that day, and we came back, safely. And it was one of those things where you get out and kiss the ground almost, like, oh, thank God, because, I didn't want to get caught up in that kind of stuff. And then there's other time where your mind is in that fast lane. But I know it's very easy to get caught up, because you got a lot of folks in the fast lane. When you connected to these folks, you can easily get caught up into something that you don't want to get caught up into, and can end up getting killed or going to prison for the rest of your life. And so I'm going to ask both of you a question. What is the greatest risk you ever took? And we start with you, Mr. Cooper.
With that question, what exactly do you mean the greatest?
Well, we're risk takers. We take a lot of risks, and whether it's, like, I'll give you an example, you guys, you speed, not so speed, like the race in the cars and so on, right?
Right.
So looking at that, it could be any aspect of your life, sometimes even racing can be dangerous, it depends on, where you are and what you're doing, There could be things that, some risks that you can take that, man, if I do this, I can get life in prison, or I can end up getting killed, or they can just mess me up forever. You know, so we've taken a lot of risk in our lives and so on. Do you think that, are there some risks that you have taken that when you think about it now, you're like, man,
Yeah, gangbanging.
Thank you. See, so gangbanging is a great risk, and that's a risk that, and what we call that is when we see people that's on on the fringes, on the border, getting ready to get caught up in the gangbanging lifestyle. We call them high risk takers. They're high risk because man, they and some of them already in it, but they take a high risk because you jeopardizing your life. You jeopardizing getting ready to. You can either get to go to prison, get killed, or be injured for it. Like be crippled or disabled in a wheelchair or quadruple. I forget how they use that term, because I've seen people that way where they laid out in the bed and can't walk or anything. Can't.
Straight paralyzed.
Yeah, paralyzed. Yeah, say that again. Quadriplegic, and that's quadriplegic. This is our buddy Al Joseph helping me out with one of our technicians here. And so you know, and so we take all the risk. So what opened your eyes? That was you was being a risk taker, living a life dangerous.
Well, a lot of things open my eyes, but that goes back into taking them risks again.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can take so many risks.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the things that opened my eyes was just seeing a lot of my homies turn out to end up on drugs. A lot of my homies turn out to do life in prison.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my homeboys died at young ages.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing this close friends that grew up together turn on each other for like just stuff that didn't matter, like, you know,
right.
street business, and
Right.
it was just like your life could fall apart when you so deep in the game banging.
Yeah, man. Mr. Eric Black, what about you?
To be honest, anybody who's gangbanging, I believe that's their biggest risk they take in life.
Okay.
Period.
Okay.
Every day is a risk.
Right.
If you call yourself gangbanging.
Mm-hmm.
Every day you risk going to jail, you risk getting shot.
Right.
This is your life.
Right.
So that if you're gangbanging, that's the biggest risk you take, whether you know you're taking it or not.
Right. And you know, I don't think people really look at it like that. I know I didn't. And I remember my sister told me one time, she said, every time you left the house, I thought that was the last time I was going to see you. And, you know, for me, it was normal. It was like, you know, I mean, but when I think about it now, it's like, well, yeah, you know, I did realize any day, you know, it could be over with. And, you know, with being a risk taker, and you all can share with me some of your thoughts in being that risk taker. And since we're talking about this gangbang lifestyle, to have that experience there, I know with me, when I was out there and when I was doing this, I knew, you know, any day I can get killed. I knew any day, you know, with some decisions that I make, it can cause me to go to prison for the rest of my life. But I cared, but I didn't care, if that make any sense. I know it seemed like a paradoxical statement, say you cared and didn't care. I cared, I didn't want to get caught, but I was willing to take the risk. It was like, okay, if it happened, it happened, but I ain't giving this up. You know, I'm going to do this, and, you know, and I don't want to go to prison, but I'm willing to take the risk of going down that path, of doing that. And back then where my mind was, I really, you know, was willing, whatever came, was willing to take that risk. But thank God that, you know, God had other plans for me and so on, in not going that route. So I know that can be a dangerous thing to do. Right. So why would a person take a risk of getting killed or going to prison for the rest of their lives by living this dangerous life in the fast? And as Eric was saying, you know, every day we're taking a risk, you know, especially if you're banging, you're taking a risk every day. You know, those young men went out the house yesterday and got shot, you know, coming out the house, you know, and, you know, and sometimes people feel like I wasn't doing nothing. But you don't realize, you know, if you're lining yourself up with certain people, you are doing something, and somebody's going to hold you accountable for that.
The biggest thing is ignorance.
Okay.
It's ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
There's a phrase, if you knew better, you'll do better.
Amen.
Nobody knows better.
Right.
So if nobody knows better, we can't really even expect them to do better.
Right.
The only for a lost black kid at about 13 years old out there with no family, the only type of family you can have is either a gang or the church.
Right.
To a 13-year-old kid, church is boring.
That's what they tell me.
Church is boring. You're gonna fall asleep.
That's what they tell
You
me.
got to get dressed.
Mhm.
It's a lot of old people. So I can go on and on.
Go
So,
on.
when I grew up, my mom went to work from, I don't know what time she started, but she didn't get off work till 7 o'clock at night.
Uh-huh.
I walk to school and walk home.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, when I come home from school, I got to go to my grandmother's house until 7 o'clock.
Mhm.
That's until the sun goes down.
Mm-hmm.
So in all actual reality, what do your grandma tell you when you're at home? Go play outside.
Right. Right.
Go play outside.
Right.
So in all actuality, who's raising me?
Mm-hmm.
The streets or
Mhm.
my parents?
Right.
My mom is a single parent. She has to work.
Mm-hmm.
She has to
Mhm.
provide for us,
Mm-hmm.
which keeps her these long hours at work.
Right.
I have to stay at my grandma's. My grandma says, go play outside.
Amen. Mm-hmm.
The streets is what's raising me,
Mm-hmm.
not my parents. I mean, they're taking care of me,
Mm-hmm.
but the streets are raising me.
Got you. Got you. They're providing for you a place to live, food on the table, clothes to wear,
Mhm.
you know, those type of things. But it's the street that is nurturing you, you know, and teaching you the life and what the decisions affecting real decision, whether I'm going to make a healthy decision or whether I'm going to make a dangerous or unhealthy decision. Yeah, and that's very true. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of folks don't really look at and think about. You know, when you talk about single parent homes, and when you talk about what's going on in the streets in the community, one of the things that I was sharing with someone is, you know, when I was raising my kids, you know, I had them on lockdown. You know, when they was in the house, you know, they didn't run the streets. They was in at a certain time. I knew where they were. You know, all that kind of stuff. You know, did things, family things, went on vacations, fishing trips, had family day every week. All those kind of things. I mean, I thought I was doing everything right, but I realized the streets and the community. Yeah, as Eric, you were saying that you know, you got a lot of other kids that are kind of caught up in those streets like that. The streets are raising them, and even when when a child is in a home where their parents are raising them, once they go to school, they kind of in those streets when they go to school, or if they go into the rec or going to their friend's house for a couple hours. You're kind of in those streets because now you're with these other guys that may be letting the streets raise them and not their parents raise them. And I found that a lot of my kids got caught up with most of the stuff they got caught up with in school. Whether it was drugs or gangs or anything, they was getting caught up in the school system. Going to school, meeting their friends, hanging out with them and so on. And that was the piece that blindsided me, you know. Later on, you know, when I said I was thinking they were okay when they went to school. You know, if I didn't get a call from the teacher and all those kind of things, you know, I'm not really down there, you know, and really missed out on that. So Mr. Cooper, what about you? What do you think about this?
Just basically on piggyback off what he just
Yeah.
said. I totally agree on everything he said because my mom and dad, I grew up in a household, both my parents, and coming up at about 10 years old, one of my older sisters, who I was always real close with, ran away from home. She's about 6 years older than me, so I had to be about 10. She had to be about 16. And she was pregnant with one of my first nephews. And she left the house. She was involved with gangbanging. And she tracked out. My grandmother lived on 41st in Boston in the South Crest community. And that was the area I was claiming, you know. So getting out of school every day, first thing I wanted to do was meet back up with my sister. So I just found myself hanging out a lot more at my grandmother's house where the gang was just deep. And it got to a point in time where I was 11 years old and I just started smoking weed.
Look at that. 11 years old.
And from smoking weed after school, it got to
So about drinking, liquor, and
I didn't start drinking until I was 13.
Okay.
But it got to the point where, you know, it was just smoking weed before school, after school, maybe during school. And getting into fights after school with the Mexicans in my neighborhood and other blacks and from other communities, and just being young and crazy. I had like I was very inspired by Tupac at the time, and I didn't really understand his music at the time. It was that bandana on record on his head that really caught my attention. So coming up around like 4th grade, I remember every day tucking this red rag in my pocket every day after school. I whip it out and wrap it on my head like I was Tupac. So it was just like something daily to do. I never left the house without it. It was like you can't start the car without the car keys. I couldn't leave the pad without the rag.
There you go.
And I was in 4th grade.
And you're learning this from stuff you were seeing on TV, and then a lot of times, TV don't affect nobody. That's
like you say, when you said you had a movie like, what was it, The Godfather? I had a lot of movies I came up around, like Menace to Society and Boys in the Hood, and my life at that time was like a movie. Every day, just seeing more 20+ gang members in your grandmother's house from the front to the backyard.
Right.
Seeing probably like 100 fights in 1 month. And then been there when shootings happen, and seeing like at least 2 of my cousins get shot. I seen like at least 2 of my homeboys by the time I was 15 die in my face. And then kind of just like, I'm taking a big risk, man, at a young age.
Yeah, and that's a lot of trauma, and just listening to the conversation, and when you talk about smoking marijuana at 11, then you say, "Oh no, I didn't start drinking till 13." Like I'm old now, And it's the law says you can't drink alcohol until you're 21.
Right.
So that's a long way off. You know what I mean? I mean, you just now passed over that a year ago, whatever. And so young folks are doing a lot of things, a lot of grown things, and their mind is not fully developed till, from what I've heard, 25 years old, somewhere like that. So you're talking about being intoxicated, talking about drugs and chemicals that are affecting the mind and decision making and so on. And that's taking, and sometimes folks don't even realize that those are taking risks. That's taking a risk. That's living life on the edge and very dangerous life to live. And we don't even know our health situation to be doing a lot of that stuff.
It only got worse, man. By the time I was like 14, 15, I was smoking probably 20 blunts a day. I wasn't doing no homework in school. For a little certain amount of time, it was just strictly hanging out. I was so involved with gangbanging, I was having to carry a gun to school. I was, about 10th grade, I had a baby on the way, my son. I was 15 years old. It was just like, man.
Moving fast.
Like, extremely fast.
Yeah.
I was like, getting my first little experiences in juvenile hall. I was just selling drugs.
And did it ever dawn on you, and Eric, I want to bring you into the conversation too on this, did it ever dawn on you that, man, I need to slow down, man, I'm on the wrong track, or do you think all this was normal and okay?
Before I let my bro Eric speak, I'm going to tell you like this, I thought I wasn't doing enough.
Like, man, I need to put on some more, man, I'm a square.
It was like catch up still.
What about you, Eric?
To be honest, I didn't even. It's not even a thought until you're given time to think.
I got you.
And I wasn't given time to think until I went to prison.
Okay. How old were you when you went to prison?
18.
How old are you now?
26.
Okay. And how long were you in prison?
5 years.
Okay. And what you go to prison for?
An attempted murder.
Attempted murder. What happened? If you can talk about it.
To make a very long story short, one of my friends got shot.
Was it gang related? Tied into that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe so. One of my friends gets shot. What do you do when somebody hurts one of your people?
Right.
So, me and a couple of my friends get into a car, and some stuff happens. We end up going to jail.
Right.
I ended up doing 5 years. I ended up taking a deal for 9. Ended up pulling 5.
Did they charge you with attempted murder? Or?
They charged me with attempted murder right before I took my deal. What they were trying to do is they try to work you in these courtrooms.
Okay.
First of all. I had private counsel. I had paid attorneys, so that's the only thing that saved my life.
Wow. Okay.
First, they tried to get me to sign as. They tried to get all of us to sign as the shooter. There's 3 people, and 1 person can pull the trigger.
Right.
So, I'm not stupid. So, when my lawyer brings me the deal, he tells me to sign the deal. Assault with a firearm, basically stating that I assaulted this man with a firearm.
Mm-hmm.
There's no evidence in this courtroom saying that I assaulted anybody with a firearm.
Right.
There's only evidence that I was present.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, I'm not signing the deal. You're going to have to take this deal back. You're going to have to put accessory or aiding and abetting on this deal because there's no evidence that I pulled any triggers.
Right.
He goes to the DA. He tells me it doesn't matter. It's going to hold the same amount of time. It doesn't matter. It'll make me feel more comfortable. Not pleading guilty to something that I did not do.
Right.
Comes back with aiding and abetting. Come to find out, God is good.
Amen.
Aiding and abetting is not a violent crime. I signed 9 years with 85%. Come to find out, aiding and abetting is not a violent crime. They come back, they strike off my 85%. I'm eligible for halftime. I do 9 with half instead of 9 with 85.
Okay.
Only because I made them change the deal.
So you did 5 years altogether? Man. So how long you been out now?
Going on 3 years.
3 years.
2.5.
So when you was in prison, that when you started thinking about this, living this dangerous life in the fast lane. What triggered that?
That's when you sit back. Life. I was looking at 60 to life, no deal. That's an eye opener.
Absolutely.
That's when you pay attention to who's writing you.
You're right.
Who's emailing you? Who's sending you money?
I
got a son out there. That's when I'm paying attention to who's willing to take my son some diapers because I can't. Who's willing to call my mom on Mother's Day and tell her Happy Mother's Day?
Right.
That's when you realize, when you sit back and people are forced to show themselves and they don't show up.
Right.
That's when you think about it. That's when you sit back and say, now my life is on the line. For what?
Right.
And then you got to answer that question yourself with your time.
Amen. And one of the amazing things that I'm hearing you say, and this is the thing that when talking to a young man last night, I was trying to get him to understand, but I really couldn't talk to a lot of other people in the room. But man, right now, bro, you could be dead. They can be yellow tape blocking off the scene. Your body could still be down on the ground waiting for the coroner to come. God spared your life. You're here. You got to think about it and take it serious. Because if you were dead, who would care? Your family's going to suffer. Your mother and father's going to hurt. Your grandmother's going to hurt. Your brothers and family members are going to hurt. Sisters going to hurt. People your family's going to love you and things like that. But these homies, these folks that you run with, some of them might even care. But when you're dead and gone, like you were saying, if I got a kid, who's going to take care of my son, my daughter? Who's going to look out for my mom and my dad when they get older? I'm not going to be there. Or if my homies, are they going to go on and live their life and do what they got to do, look out for their own? Who's going to be there for all of that? And, I don't think they really think about that. And that's very important to look at, to think like, you know what? I got to change some things in my life. And that's for sure. So, too many of our young people are living fast and dying young. What can we do about that to slow them down? And Mr. Cooper, start with you first.
I mean,
and I know that's a complex question.
Yeah.
If you ask me, then I'll okay. What would really work? Go ahead, Mr. Black.
I believe this problem is way bigger than us.
Amen.
This problem is way bigger than us. This problem doesn't just start down here on this ground level. Because, like I said, if the streets are raising our children, then what can we do? So if you have a single parent, has anybody checked the rent prices nowadays?
Thank you.
It's almost impossible to make a living for yourself and some children. So what do you have to do? You have to go to work. You have to get double jobs. You have to work overtime. With that being said, you're not raising your children.
That's right.
The community is not together enough to raise our own children.
That's right. That's right.
So until there's a program put in place for us to raise our own children, there's always going to be a problem because it's bigger than us. It's a system. It's a system set in the streets are raising us.
Right. Absolutely.
That's it.
Ms. Cooper, you want to add anything to that?
I just feel like it all starts in your community.
All right.
And it all has a big role with the it plays a big role with the older influences that the young kids look up to.
Look at that, and that's an important piece. Yeah,
When I was
on the
growing up,
streets,
when I was growing up, I had like my older cousins, my older homeboys that I looked up to like strongly. Like I looked at all of them like my daddy. I looked at my dad like it was all that man. And they would get out of prison and just make everything sound so good about that.
Right.
I hear them tell war stories. Everything sounds so good about that. So when you don't hear or see nothing wrong with what you see, with what you hear is bad, and you got the people that you look up to and you love saying that, boom, this was good, boom, that was bad. I mean, that wasn't bad, and you willing to take that chance and experience it yourself because they did it.
Right.
They stood in my face, able to tell me it was straight. And we banged the same thing, we claimed the same thing, we loved the same thing, so I'll last, you know? And you got kids still going through that, and it only makes it worse now because when I was coming up at like 12, 13, 14, we didn't have that music. Now at like kids 13, 14, they got music highly, you know, inspiring them to carry guns with more than 30 rounds and do this and that to so and so, and so it only it only makes it worse when you got kids, or when you got like the world promoted on TV now.
Yes.
And you got like police even promoting the gang business, man. Like I was like 15, 16, and we had crooked cops coming through my neighborhood. Like I don't know if they was just telling us what we might have wanted to hear, but they was, hey man, y'all is 5'9", we know where West Coast is at. They're on such and such alley, and they're 10 deep.
Oh wow! Yeah, like hey, hold on a second, you ever see what you're gonna do?
So when you got everybody playing a role in the bad life, you can't.
Point.
You know, it's
Good
like
point.
you don't see nothing. You can't see nothing wrong with it because you're blinded by all that.
Right. That's a good point. You know, both of you guys, you know, and I think Eric hit on something when he dealing with the economic system and talking about the poverty and being able to live. That traumatizes you alone. I mean, you know, when a single parent is struggling, struggling to keep food on the table,
Right.
keep a roof over your head, and not making enough, and you know, struggling in relationships and struggling in the community, you know, to stay above water, and then you have a child that you got to watch over, and you got to work, and you don't have nobody to come in. The only person you send to is maybe grandma, grandpa, whoever, and they might be a little bit older, and you know, don't understand, you know, the streets and different things like that. And you get caught up, and then you're talking about your homies and people that you look up to, and getting bad advice and bad influence. And then you have, you know, bad police officers that just pushing and urging things on, lacking a lot of the positive aspect of encouraging the individual to do the right thing.
Right.
And I know, like, one of the things that we've been working on, and we want to try to do this summer, is what we call the Summer Night Lights program, where we really want to do it is each park on each set, from Wednesday to Saturday, from 7 p.m. to 12 midnight, have food, have a lot of activities going on at the park, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, other activities for the young folks, something for the whole family to come, you know, and doing gang prevention, education, intervention, even doing violence interruption, you know, like the shooting that happened last night, you know, folk who, you know, have stuff going on at the park and in the community where you can reach out and start talking to some of the youngsters, get some of the things you're talking about right now, get to understand that, hey, bro, you might be hurting and your loved one is gotten shot, but if you go and shoot somebody and kill them, you can be gone for life, and then what about your child? You know, like Eric was talking, if he would have got 60 to life, somebody else would have to raise his child. You know, you got to think about that before you make some of the decisions. You got to really look at that, you know. And you know, when you're young and on drugs and You've been traumatized already, live in a community of poverty. You got the people who you look up to and respect is giving you the gun and telling you to go put in the work. We're facing a lot of challenges, and so we do have to make the family whole. We do have to look at the poverty. We have to look at the criminal justice system. We have to look at all these structural racism that's set up against black folks and people of color, not just blacks, but people of color, because you have Latinos, you have Asian, even poor white folk. People are being affected, and people can get angry, displacement of anger. Who I'm going to lash out at? I'm going to lash out to people that's closest to me. I'm going to lash out at people right in my community and so on, because I'm angry. And I got to, release that anger. Like a father, the boss harass him. It's not safe to go off on the boss because I lose my job. So what do? He go home, kick the dog, fuss at the kids, and go off on the wife, because that's a safe place to do it. And that's what we have in the community, a lot of displacement of anger. And we got to work on solving our problem. There's so many different avenues that come down. We just got to do our part. If it's nothing but sowing a seed and sharing with someone that, hey, you know what, we got to stop that. So with the Summer Night Lights program, you guys are going to be hearing more about it. Hopefully, we'll be able to get a kickstart and get a couple pilots in some of the parks. For sure, want you guys to be involved and to help and work with us so that we can push the positive aspect of our young people. Instead of them hanging on the corner with someone that's going to influence them, put a gun in their hand or whatever, they can be at the park where they're being encouraged to do the right thing, and being educated and being busy and active and doing something and so on. So that is for sure. So with the Summer Nights Light program, it's Friday, Wednesday to Saturday from 7 p.m. to midnight, and it's for something for the whole family to come out to. You think that's something that will help?
I mean, in a way, I see it helping is it'll keep the youth that's could be out here, committing crimes during the nighttime, because that's when most of the crimes are committed at nighttime. If he's doing something positive, like at a gang prevention program, or doing some good activities with the youth, or sitting there talking with his family about getting his life together or getting their life together, then there's no way he can be in a car headed somewhere he's not supposed to be to do something he's not supposed to do.
Amen.
So that'll help the kids that's doing stuff they ain't supposed to do after dark. Because I know when I was young, a lot of my mama would see me coming with a backpack, thought it was books and there was guns, and I didn't come from my auntie house like I told you. I just jumped out the car down the street from the house and finna wash up and get gunpowder off.
Yeah.
And it was just crazy. Like a lot of kids' parents don't even know what their kids are so heavily involved in.
Right. Absolutely.
It'll help them make it.
Absolutely.
They're not going to.
Right. So Eric, go ahead and add.
Like I said, if my mom gets off work at 7 o'clock, what does she do? She comes and pick us up at about 7:30. Take us home, feed us dinner. About 7:38. She's gonna take a shower. She has a show she likes to watch. She's gonna watch her show. About 9:30, going on 10. It's time to go to bed. I've spent 3-4 hours out of this day with my mother.
Right. Yeah.
I spent 3-4 hours out of this day with my mother, and she's tired.
Right.
She doesn't want to talk about what I've been doing all day. She's tired. She wants to get ready for tomorrow.
Yeah. And hopefully, hoping you can understand, and comprehend that, and you may kind of understand it, but life goes on, and you can easily, get caught up because somebody's gonna spend a little bit more time. You can hang with me all day, come over here, and and you just get sucked in and get caught up, and that's the sad thing about it. So, Eric shared with us what slowed him down a little bit in the first thing. And DeAndre, I don't know if we clearly heard from you what slowed you down.
Same thing slowed me down, man. Going to prison. Sitting back in prison cells, thinking I'd never have be there one day.
Right.
And
just to interject real quick, how much time were you looking at originally?
Me?
Yeah. Before you got sentenced.
I was looking at just life in prison, period.
Look at that. See?
And once I got to prison, I seen like only my family had me, and it was the only people I wanted to have me.
Right.
I kind of didn't care about a gang no more. I kind of didn't care about my friends that I left out there. You may be missing when you out of town or something.
Right.
You know, but when you got yourself somewhere 4 hours away from home, locked away in a cell, locked away in a prison, it gets realer than missing your homeboys. You start to miss your family.
Amen.
The people you was like neglected when you was out here. The people that didn't feel your love. You know, you showed your homies all your love while you was in the streets.
Right.
And when you go to prison or you go to jail, period, your family got you. You know, I came home on an appeal for life, and it cost my mom $30,000, and it's like several months of fighting back and forth from court.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You know, it cost her to get rid of a home. You know, so it's like it gets right. It gets bigger than
just to get fair representation.
Right, because these lawyers cost.
Yeah, absolutely.
These lawyers cost.
Absolutely.
And that's just I could just piggyback off what bro said. It just when you sitting there and you all alone, man, you got so much time to sit back and think.
Right.
About the crazy life you was living, man. You kind of ask yourself, what was I thinking? What was I doing? What was cool about it? You got so many questions to ask yourself. What did I find so cool, amusing about that? You know?
Right.
Why would I want to accept life in prison? Why did I, you just get to kind of beat yourself up about it.
And I mean, man, I know we're running out of time, and I'm just really kind of getting into this. You know, all kind of questions are running through my mind. But I'm most definitely going to have to, have you guys back. But before we close, got about a minute left. Is there anything you guys want to add to what you already said real quickly, if you can say it real quickly?
Yeah, I'll add, man, if any youth is out there listening, and you call yourself gangbanging, or you are really out there gangbanging, while you got a chance and you ain't in prison right now, change it, man. Go to school and like school. Because when you in there, you going to go to school.
That's right.
If you ain't got a job, get a job. Because when you in there, you going to get a job. So whatever you ain't forced to do, when you get in there, you're going to be forced to do it.
Amen.
And just enjoy your life, man. Want to wake up in your own bed and not in a cell big as your bathroom, man. And share it.
That's right. Eric?
I want to say something to black fathers. If you're a black father, your kids need you.
Thank you.
Your kids need you out here. They need you more than you would even know.
Right.
Because whether you know it, believe it, or even acknowledge it, we're in a fight out here.
Yes.
And until you understand we're in a fight, you're not even going to put your hands up. So be there for your children. Our kids need us the most. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper and Mr. Black, for being on the show. We're most definitely going to have you back maybe before we do the Summer Nights Light, if we able to get that up and running, because we want to make a big difference. Want to thank all my listeners for tuning in, and I encourage you to come by and visit us at Charity Apostolic Church at 610 South 30th Street on Saturdays at 11:30. And I want to thank you for listening. Tune in next week for another great show on What's Happening Now with your host, Bishop Bowser, on KBLKradio.com. And may God bless you and you have a great week.